The old football adage is to run, run, run to set up the pass. Kentucky took that to an extreme today, but it all worked out well as the Wildcats pull out an exciting, just amazing game at the Belk Bowl against Virginia Tech. We got Kevin McGuffey on the line from Last Word on College Football to help us break down the Cats' last-second comeback win. Kevin, how you doing today? Is the heart palpitations come down just a bit?
Yeah, a little bit. I had to go run around the building a couple of times here after that last play. I'm at work right now, so everybody's just running around, it's pretty happy place. It's just an incredible game, as you said. Something about Kentucky and bowl games 2 years ago was the Music City Bowl with Benny Snell and all that, and then last year the excitement, beating Penn State, and then this game. I think most Cat fans didn't think we were going to pull this one out. I could be wrong, but we had our questions. But just what can you say about Lynn Bowden? I mean, he just, as somebody I know has already tweeted, and I was thinking the same thing. Let's just go build a statue now, outside of Kroger Field for Bowden. I mean, just what an incredible season he's had. What an incredible. Sorry, somebody's trying to get a hold of me. It's okay. Live TV. Just seriously, just what an incredible season. What and topping it off the way he did with, of all things, winning, as you said, winning the game with a pass, a completion to Josh Ali with 15 seconds left to win the game. I mean, just incredible. It's just been a great, another really strong season for Mark Stoops and the Cats, finishing. Losing what they lost last year and finishing 8-5 is pretty good. I think most Cat fans will take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah. So if anyone who watched the game or maybe just caught the end of the game or maybe is just checking out the analysis and wants to go back and catch the highlights that doesn't really understand the plight of Kentucky football this year, Terry Wilson, starting quarterback who led the team to 10 wins last year and a top 10 finish, knocked out early in the season after a trial with Sawyer Smith, a backup quarterback. Kentucky decided to go with Lynn Bowden. Lynn Bowden's a wide receiver, one of the better wide receivers in the SEC. So you can imagine what the offenses look like this entire 2/3 of the season to end 2019. It's been Wildcat, Lynn Bowden doing everything, including an SEC record 284 yards rushing earlier this season. So even though he has not really carried the ball much, the first maybe 3 to 4 games of the season, he caught 30 passes, just looked at the numbers. Being a wide receiver, he still carried it so much and ran for so many yards that he just vaulted up the SEC quarterback and the Kentucky running back and rushing charts to finish 3rd or 4th all time in single season categories, in both for an SEC quarterback and for a Kentucky runner, because he's just carried the load and been the offense, and again was today for the Wildcats.
Oh, you're exactly right. As you said, the second game of the season, Terry Wilson went down with a torn patellar tendon in his knee against Eastern Michigan. They put Sawyer Smith. He was a grad transfer from Troy. This is why they brought him in case something happened to Wilson. And then he got hurt in the Florida game, even though the coaching staff, they never really talked about it. Some kind of arm injury, I think it was, even though they never officially said he was hurt. And then finally, before the Arkansas game, Kentucky was sitting at 2-3 and had, lost badly at Mississippi State and South Carolina, and something had to be done. And Stoops and Eddie Gran, and Darren Henshaw, the quarterback's coach, they just got together and said, okay, what can we do? It's like, let's put our best player out there and give him the ball and see what happens. And the rest is, as you said, the rest has been history. I think he finished second. I think he passed Johnny Manziel. I think he finished second to Cam Newton, I believe, for most yards in the season by quarterback running, which obviously is really, really good company. And as I said, had the incredible game against Louisville, and the Cats, they put him at quarterback, and the Cats went 6-2, and they're Belk Bowl champions. And you just, like I said, you just can't, it's just hard to believe what he's accomplished in these 7-8 games now at quarterback. And of course, he's already announced, today was his last game. He's heading for the NFL. I'll be interested to see where he actually falls in the draft, because I don't think he's going to play quarterback in the NFL. He's, some people want to try to, people want to compare him to Lamar Jackson, but he can't. Obviously the throwing is not there. But I think he could do wide receiver. Obviously, he could probably play some running back. It'll be interesting. I said it'll be interesting to see what happens. But as I said, it's just been, this last 8 games has been about as fun a ride, I think, for UK fans as we've had. As good as last year was. This was these last few games was about as good, at least in my opinion. And just the way things ended today, you just can't ask for any better end to the season, winning in the last seconds. And then not only that, Jordan Wright picking up a fumble on the flea flicker at the end of the game, running it in, shades of the Florida game last year where it ended, with Kentucky running the ball in for a touchdown, when we finally beat Florida for the first time in 31 years. So, but yeah, like I said, let's just get the statue, everybody chip in some money. Let's get the statue built and put it outside Kroger Field right now.
In this day and age of teams throwing the ball all over the place, I would want to see every team run this, but it's a novelty that's fun to watch. And of course, Kentucky doesn't want to run its football operation or its offensive approach every year like this, but it's just a fun novelty to behold a guy with that kind of athleticism and dynamic playmaking ability at quarterback when that they've got limitations, but they're going to throw it occasionally. So what that came out to was 6 of 12 for Bowden for 73 yards. He threw a touchdown and an interception, 34 carries, 230 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So if you got to see the last drive of the game, you're never concerned in this day and age of anybody running out of time when they've got like 3 minutes left to play and they've just crossed the 50-yard line. But because you're running the ball every play, and they did have the 2 timeouts, time did become a factor. They got inside like 40 seconds and they were still out at the 22 yard line. And again, running the ball, you're not going to throw the ball out of bounds. You're not going to be able to run out of bounds on a completion. You don't have those usual opportunities and elements to stop the clock when you're running the ball every play. And they had to convert 2 4th downs as well on that final drive.
Oh, you're exactly right. We were, like I said, I'm at my workplace, and we're kind of huddled around watching, and we're just like, come on, because exactly we're like, they're not going to throw the ball. We don't think they're going to, and so the time concern was a real concern, and then he completed the one pass on the 4th down, and then got the pass to Josh Ali. Like I said, they completed 2 or 3 4th downs. I think it was like a 16-play drive. I believe on that last touchdown, I think it was like 16 plays or something like that. Just, crazy. And just, like I said, ran the clock down to almost to 0 and then pulled out the victory. So it's a happy, everybody in True Blue land is very, very happy today. Beat Louisville in basketball on Saturday and got a big win there, and then beat Virginia Tech in the Belk Bowl. And it was a great game, and it was very, I don't know if you'd seen any of the stuff leading up to the game, but it'd been very, very chippy. For whatever reason, Virginia Tech seemed that, they wanted to try to get inside Bowden's head. And, I'm sitting there like, that's not the way to do this. Like, don't poke. I think I even tweeted this, like, don't poke the bear. Don't make Bowden angry. And if you watch the game, the first half, Kentucky came out, you could tell their emotions. They had no control over their emotions, like 2 penalties on the first drive. And, numerous offsides, numerous mental mistakes, things that, Kentucky, they did early in the season, but they hadn't been doing this over the last few weeks. And we're like, okay, well, here we go. This looks like the Kentucky from early in the season. But then, they got it together. The defense made a couple stops after, the Bowden interception. There was like back-to-back turnovers. There was the questionable fumble by A.J. Rose that, nobody could see. Nobody got a good replay of. Of course, the running joke on the Kentucky side was that if they took one of the 20 cameras that they had on Bud Foster the entire game, they might have seen the replay. but I understand it was, his last game. He's a coaching legend, and has been at Virginia Tech. But it was just like, okay, because people that weren't watching the game, they're like, okay, now which one's the head coach? Is it the guy they keep showing, or is it, Justin Fuente? Because, there's like, no, this is a defensive coordinator. It's his last game. This is the head coach over here, but you would know it. But like I said, speaking as a TV person, that's just stuff that,
Well, I watched the entire game. I don't know that I saw Justin Fuente, but I saw Bud Foster about 74 times. And I might not be even exaggerating that they showed him like every other play.
Yeah, every other play.
So again, the guy has had a remarkable career.
Oh, yeah. No.
If you don't know, this is his last game as defensive coordinator at Virginia Tech. He's hanging him up after, I believe, 26 campaigns. And of course, at the outset of Virginia Tech football, Frank Beamer was just getting that program started at that point, brought on Bud Foster, and that's when the program really took off. Virginia Tech football was in the abyss and had never been heard from before the early 90s. So Bud Foster had a lot to do with Virginia Tech becoming relevant nationally.
Yeah, he's a Kentucky native. He's from Somerset, which is about an hour and a half south of here. And then he played football at Murray State, and then started his coaching career out there. So, it was kind of, and then little fun tidbit. His first game as a defensive coach at Virginia Tech was against Kentucky in 1987. So there's a little fun fact there. Kentucky, that was actually the last time Kentucky and Virginia Tech had played, because they used to play a lot in the 70s and 80s. They played a great deal, and then with the 9-game. With the 12 games, and then the SEC going to 8 games, some of those series that Kentucky used to play, like Virginia Tech and Indiana, people like that, those all went away. But anyway, just a little funny, interesting note. You can always relate something. His first game at Virginia Tech was against Kentucky, and his last game against Virginia Tech was versus Kentucky. So
I would have had no idea. So the guy that caught the game-winning touchdown, Josh Ali, so he lined up in the slot. He just ran a seam. The cornerback just didn't stay with him. That was the interesting portion of this as well, is because that Bowden is capable of completing some passes, but that they're not going to be reliant on that. And if you just play a conventional defense, he's just going to torch you. So you've got to play in the box. You've got to focus on him. You've got to have spies. You got to do all the things that you do against a regular Wildcat. But then every so often he'd pop one out, and it was pretty effective. Only 6 for 12, but they hit on longer pass completions, and certainly the game winner right down the seam to Ali, who was the most productive receiver on 4 catches, 52 yards for Kentucky. As the Wildcats, again, a season in which they lost just a tremendous amount of talent from one of the nation's best defenses, finishing in the top 10 last year, lose their quarterback, lose their backup, got to go to a Wildcat with Lynn Bowden and still finish at 8-5. Pretty remarkable. And on the way, thrashed a team in Louisville, their arch rival, that went on and won a bowl game as well. So as you say, it's not 10 wins, it's 8 this year, but considering all the circumstances involved, a successful season for Mark Stoops and company.
Oh, definitely. I said Louisville. I thought Louisville looked pretty good yesterday against Mississippi State. As you said, they beat Louisville, beat them handily, and it was pretty exciting. Kentucky did pretty well against the ACC this year, 2-0. So no harm or whatever. Look good against them. But yeah, as you said, I think you and I've talked about this before. A lot of people around the program consider this year kind of a placeholder year, because you had such the great season last year, and Kentucky has so many. I mean, they're losing Bowden, obviously, which is he's going to be irreplaceable pretty much. But you look at what they're going to have coming back. They've got Terry Wilson. Should be a healthy Terry Wilson next year. They've got Sawyer Smith will still be here. I'll look for the running game. Kentucky's still going to be, I think, a run first team next year, because Wilson has that great dual threat ability as well. Excuse me. And you think of you have AJ Rose, who had such a good game today. Then you have Chris Rodriguez, Cavassier Smoke. They have another guy, Travis Tisdale. Next year I would expect them to just run the ball basically almost a four-headed, you can say like a four-headed monster, any one of those four guys. And I think, Kentucky will be, the coaching staff will be happy with any of them. I think we're, as I said, this kind of a bridge year, placeholder year. I think next year they could definitely be another 9-10 win. The schedule's a little tougher next year, but I really think with everybody they have coming back and all the guys who've gotten so much experience this year, I think it could be another 9-10 win, 9 or 10 win season next year, and maybe another New Year's Day Bowl. As I said, the schedule's a little tougher. They have to go to Florida and Tennessee, and they trade Auburn for Arkansas this year. They played Arkansas this year, but still, I think if I was right now, I would probably pick Kentucky third in the SEC in the preseason. And this season's not even over with yet, and we don't know who's going to leave. From Georgia, from Florida, but I think Georgia and Florida, 1-2, and I'd put Kentucky and Tennessee probably right there together, and then South Carolina, Missouri, and then Vanderbilt, they're at the bottom, at least, that's how I would, on December 31st, that's how I would say. Now, when we get to August, I might change my mind a little bit, but yeah, it's just been, going back to what you said at the beginning, it's just been another, these last 8 games have been just so much fun, so much fun to watch, minus the goal line stand against Tennessee. You think, the 4 plays to get 1 yard, and, they couldn't get it done against Tennessee, where Kentucky could have been playing, Outback Bowl, an even better, bigger game than what they were playing in today, had they been able to get those yards against Tennessee. But like I said, 8-5 Belk Bowl champions. Mark Stoops is now 2-2 in bowl games. Lost the first 2. Now he's won these 2. So I think just bigger and better. I really think bigger and better things are ahead for this program. It's going to be fun to watch. It's been fun to watch the development from when Stoops got here to where they are now, and it's going to be fun to keep watching in the future, see how things progress.
On the Virginia Tech side, they look like a pretty marginal football team through half the season. They had lost their first 2 ACC games, including blasted by a bad Duke team, 45-10, struggled by Old Dominion and Furman. Then they got something ramped up there mid-season. They started to knock off the teams that they needed to in the Coastal Division to get into the race. North Carolina in 6 overtimes. Miami played Notre Dame at South Bend within 1 point, 21-20. So they just improved remarkably throughout the season. Took Virginia to a close game at the end and lost to the Cavaliers for the first time in 15 years. Otherwise, they would have went to the ACC championship game against Clemson. That landed them in the Belk Bowl at 8-4. So like Kentucky, the Hokies finish up at 8-5, and Justin Fuente may have been looking at a season which would have placed him firmly on the hot seat in 2020, but they rallied to finish strong, and they maybe have stabilized things as well. Hendon Hooker started miserably in this game. He was scattershot all over the place. He performed much better in the passing game, but they relied on the run as well with him. Deshaun McLeese, 105 yards on 11 carries. Hooker, 12 for 22 through the air. So Virginia Tech's going to be a factor in a very marginal, maybe the worst division in college football next year. That's how I've got it rated, Kevin. But yeah, it's the ACC Coastal Division, and they're going to have a shot. They're going to be right in there with everybody else until somebody proves to be somewhat capable of a top 25 finish. And Virginia acquitted itself fairly well against Florida, but that's supposed to be the second best team in the ACC, playing like the 4th or 5th seed in the SEC. So again, there you go. That's the way the and of course, we've got the entire offseason. We're going to break down the personnel on both these teams and all these conferences in the next several months. But for right now, it's all about the bowl win. 37-30 is your final because of the crazy play at the end, in which Virginia Tech obviously had to go for broke and scramble around and throw the ball all over the field, and it was a mad dash and scoop and score for Kentucky to put a little cushion on that one. But the Wildcats win it in dramatic fashion nonetheless, with a heroic performance from Lynn Bowden, who just was amazing the entire season, once handed the quarterback job in this emergency situation. Kevin, we're going to let you celebrate the rest of the day. It's always, I'm sure, a better year going into the new year when you got a bowl victory under your belt, because you weren't used to that for quite a long time. And now Kentucky goes to postseason play, and they win bowl games against the likes of Penn State and Virginia Tech now.
Yeah, you're exactly right. This is Kentucky. Before last year, I think Kentucky had lost four or five bowl games in a row. You know, there was about a 6-7 year stretch where they went to 5 straight from 2006 2010 under Rich Brooks and then Joker Phillips, and then went 6 years without a bowl. Now this is 4 in a row. So this is I said this is really exciting. This is good stuff. It's going to be a very happy new year here in Lexington and the Big Blue Nation. So. Yeah, like I said, and I think it's just kind of a stepping stone. I think 2020 is going to has potential to be a really good year for Kentucky. We'll see how. Obviously, you got to play on the field and see what happens. But I think that it's definitely the future looks bright right now for Stoops and Kentucky football.
All right, Kevin. Happy New Year to you, and appreciate you stopping by.
Well, Happy New Year to you too, Mark, and thank you for having me on as always. I really appreciate it.